Hi everyone, and welcome to our week 3 Seeing Distances Challenge critique. I'm just going to dive right into the critiques. I just wanted to jump on quickly and say it's pouring rain here, there's doggies barking, a phone alarm goes off at some point, so apologies. This video is going to have Finca life sounds in the background. We're horse people. I hope you guys get it, and let's jump into our critiques. Yay! Okay, we are doing our Seeing Distances week 3 homework, and I'm starting out with a video from Ninki. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and she is from the Netherlands. So let's go ahead and press play. Now, I've already had a look at everyone's videos, and I have taken notes, so I'm going to kind of go through these notes as quick as I can for everyone. So in the warm-up to this week's challenge was to actually do some turn on the haunches, and I just want to point out, so you can see that Ninki, when she goes to do her turn on the haunches, let me go just a little bit more back. See how she's kind of walking, and then she goes straight into the turn. So for the exercise, and I do actually describe it in the workbook, in the Seeing Distances workbook, a little bit more in depth, but you do want to actually halt first and then ask for your turn on the haunches. Otherwise, what happens, and you'll kind of see that, is you kind of start walking a small circle. So you're kind of doing it, but then you're also kind of walking in a small circle. Okay, so I really want you to like halt, try and halt square or as square as you can, and then do your turn. That way you kind of get the horse nice and square and equal and balanced before you start asking them to turn. Especially because when you go, so here I think, yeah, you kind of walk in a little bit more of a circle. I think the other one wasn't too bad, but this one you are just kind of walking a small circle. So the turn on the haunches, he should I think it's a mare. She should basically be making a really teeny tiny circle with the hinds and then moving essentially only the fronts, if that makes sense. Whereas here you can see that she's just kind of walking in a small circle. So part of it is I want you to halt first, and then also really make sure that you have that outside rein and outside leg, because obviously that's what's going to help you to do the exercise. Okay, but other than that, a very nice active trot, a very lovely canter transition, very relaxed horse. So this is all looking really lovely. And then we're going to go into the actual exercise. So I love that you kind of warm up just coming over the center poles as itself before you actually come and do your week 3 pole exercise. So now we have you coming and doing the exercise, and you're doing it as poles. I love that she changes the leads there, and I love that you added these little notes for me as well. So I'll just let everyone see. So you do a nice little lead change, and then you say this should have been 5 strides, and we're going to count that again because I wrote it down, but let's just go ahead and count it together. And pole, 1, 2, 3, pole. So you said that you set it up for 5 strides, but you actually wrote it as 3 strides. So what I wanted to mention, and I'm glad that you already asked me this question in the Facebook group itself, so I want to go ahead and share this information for everyone who's kind of watching right now. When you're setting up the exercise for the bending lines, so the fact that you set it up for 5, but you actually only got 3 strides, that tells me that it's a little bit more than just like an eye related issue, okay? Because obviously your eye can't see 5 strides if it's only a 3 stride distance, okay? So that's not really an eye related issue so much as I think in your actual setup itself, you most likely didn't set the poles up correctly. So when you're setting up bending lines, you do have the option to kind of remove 1 meter, but you want to set up the poles. So I always set them up where I set it down, I stand in the center of the pole here, and then I walk the actual path that I intend to ride as far as meters go, and that's how many meters I measure it. So I measure it from the center of the pole to the center of the pole in the actual path which I'm walking, right? So you're not going to measure it with a straight line from the pole over here to this pole, okay? Because that would make it obviously too short. You're not going to go in a straight line. You're going to actually have that tape measurer kind of come at a little bend and a little angle, and that's where setting it up and maybe having a friend to help you is really good, because that way you can actually make sure you get the correct amount of meters from the center of the pole to the center of the other pole. Okay, so I think that this was more of a measuring setup related issue, and not so much that your eye is not able to see the distances. I will just note for everyone as well, so this video is muted, right? She already kind of removed the sound. It sounds like her and her friend were a little bit shy to keep the audio because the counting was off, but she did inform me that she was usually off by about one stride. Either she was going over the pole, counting one, or she was kind of one stride away. So obviously I think you're already aware that as far as the counting goes, that you need to practice. And Ninki already mentioned about going back to week 1 and kind of doing the exercise again from scratch, really kind of drilling into herself the counting. Okay, so I love that plan. Definitely do that. That's what this challenge is for. Okay, so awesome, love it, keep it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So you ride the exercise and you do the 3 strides and then 2 strides here. And you said, again, that should have been 4 strides. So 1, 2, pull. Okay, so if your horse, if you set it up for 4, which let's assume you set it up for 4 and your horse keeps getting a 3. Okay, you set it up for 4, but your horse keeps getting 3. Or you set it up for 4 and your horse keeps getting 5. That is actually okay. And actually, when I share with everyone, Ninki, so she made this video, but also her friend made the video going over the exact same exercise, and you will notice that her friend's horse is a little bit smaller than this mare. So this mare, she said, is a KWPN and is 172 centimeters, so she's quite tall. Okay, so for her, the 3 strides seems fairly comfortable. I think she gets it, she trots and then she gets 2, 3, right? So the 3 strides, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so the 3 strides for her is fairly comfortable, whereas I believe her friend's horse, whose horse is maybe a little bit smaller than this one, 4 strides is a little bit more comfortable. So I want you guys to be aware that when you're going over the poles, if you set it up for 4, but your horse is getting, 5 or getting 3, that's okay. We need to kind of see what's comfortable for our individual horse, and then from there, that's when we can start kind of tweaking and adjusting our control, try and put in an extra stride or take away a stride. Like that's when we can start making things even a little bit more difficult, okay, a little bit more challenging. But first, we have to kind of figure out what our horse's comfort zone is. Okay, so again, I don't mind if you set up the exercise for 4 and your horse keeps getting 3. That just means that that is the comfortable striding for your horse. Okay, so when you're riding the exercise, I usually like to set it up and see what my horse's comfort is. And then from there, I might try and challenge them and say, oh, okay, horse, now can you get, 5? Oh, now can you get, 2? Okay, and that's where I like to kind of mix and match things to train them to be able to adjust to different strides, because obviously in a competition environment, the distance is what the distance is, and the horses have to kind of get on with it. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. So again, thank you for asking your questions and pointing out all of this stuff. This is really helpful, I think, for everyone to learn off of. Okay, and here you see she doesn't actually change leads. And what happens is she doesn't change leads, but then also I want you guys to watch what happens over this pole. See how she gets 1 foot, the 3rd foot, over the pole. So she was a little bit too close, right? The distance from the other pole to this pole was off. And so now her combination is going to be messed up. So here she is getting 1 foot over the pole here as well. Okay, and then it also messes up here. She kind of sorts herself out and she's kind of okay, right? But what I wanted to point out, so she comes over this first pole okay, but doesn't change her leads. And what happens is this pole and the entire combination gets messed up. Now, right now, they're just poles on the ground. But imagine if these were jumps, and these were jumps at competition height, which Ninki had shared. She's kind of competing comfortably, I think, at the 80 centimeters she mentioned. But she's also done the 1 meters and the 110s. So imagine if this was a combination at 1.10 meters, and you're already kind of messing up, not being able to change your lead here, which then messes up your turn, and now she's kind of going at a weird angle, and she's messing up the distance to the combination. Maybe she would have jumped the first one, clear and not knocked the pole down, but then that means this one she's definitely knocking down and not going to get away with it. And then this one she was able to kind of sort it out in time, but it might also be that if it was an actual jump, she might not be able to save you here, and again, you might have another pole down. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of share that because there is a ripple effect. Okay, there is a ripple effect that if you mess up one pole, it was as simple as not getting your lead change and then cutting your corner, right? And that kind of messed up this pole and then this pole. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point that out, that there is a ripple effect, and that's why we're doing this challenge and we're doing this exercise in particular, because, you know, a horse kind of scrambling over a single jump is very different than a horse, you know, successfully competing a course of, let's say, 15 to 20 jumps. Okay, and especially when there's combinations, there's bending lines, there's in and outs, there's all kinds of tricky things that happen in a show environment. And if you mess up one jump, you might get away with that one, but it doesn't mean you're going to get away with the next one. Okay, and you might, if you mess up 5 jumps in a course and you have 5 rails down, I mean, obviously you don't get to go home with a ribbon. Okay, we don't get to go home with a ribbon. And I want that everyone is having successful rides, you're having fun with your horse, because honestly, that's what we are doing this for. Like, we're doing it to have fun with our horses, so we have to set them up for success. Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to mention about Nenki's course, because everything was looking really nice. Obviously, there's a few minor things to work on, which I think she's already kind of aware of. What I'm going to do is we're going to count the strides from both sides, because I want you guys to kind of see, and then I'll kind of mention at the end why I'm doing this. So ready? Pull. 1, 2, 3, pull. 1, 2, pull. Okay, so she got 3 and then 2. And now we're going to watch her do the other direction. Yep, okay, so she gets a nice canter. This is the one she trots. 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and watch, because I think she does it one more time where her horse doesn't trot. So let's go ahead and watch that. So I know she did 3 and 2 the other direction. And pull. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Let me just see. Yeah, and then she continues. And pull. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I wanted to point out, so obviously same situation kind of happened here where she was getting 1 foot over the pole. Okay, so obviously the distances are not correct. If this was a jump, you would have a rail down in this scenario. But what I wanted to point out was that both to the right and to the left, she did on this side of the arena, from this pole to this pole, and also from this pole to this pole, she was getting 3 strides. And then on this side of the arena, if I can find it, on this side of the arena, I think on both sides she was getting 2. I think there was maybe one scenario where she got 3 strides from one pole to the other. So I wanted to point that out to everyone, because there needs to be consistency. Okay, if you get 3 strides from this pole to this pole on the right, we need 3 strides from this pole to this pole on the left. Okay, we need everything to be equal, unless, of course, you set it up that one pole is for 3 strides and the other pole is for 2 strides. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that we want consistency. What we can do on the right, we can also do on the left. So if when you're riding this exercise, you notice at some point that your horse is getting 1 stride more or 1 stride less on a certain side, then that might mean that they're lacking in fitness on that side, that they're speeding up a little bit, or they're slowing down a little bit, or whatever it is. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, that we want to make sure that there is that consistency. And again, if you ride it in this direction, okay, from this pole to this pole here, if you ride it this direction and you're getting 2 strides, when you come around from the left and you do a flying lead change to the right from here to there, we also want that it's 2 strides. Okay, so whatever you set it up for and you're used to riding, we want that we can consistently, no matter which direction we're doing that pull from, get it in the same number of strides. So that was just something that I wanted to kind of point out as well. And then as far as Nenki goes, so I believe you're riding this more in a dressage saddle. At least that's kind of how it looks like, because you have a bit of a longer leg and it looks like a dressage saddle from here. So I just wanted to mention that I'm totally fine if you guys do treat this as a dressage exercise because it is just poles and you want to ride in a dressage saddle. The only thing that I'm going to mention with that is we want to kind of practice this for competitions, right? So we want to practice this the way that we intend on riding it, which is as jumps at some point. Right? At some point, you want to ride this exercise as jumps. Now, maybe you're not ready to do it as jumps yet, so you're totally fine to just continue it as a dressage exercise. But at some point, we want to graduate you that you can do this exercise with jumps, which means you want to practice the poles the same as if they are jumps. Okay, so even though it's a pole on the ground, jumping saddle, okay, with your jumping length stirrups, you should be looking for the poles. Maybe you even come into a jumping seat over the poles itself and pretend like you're jumping it. However it is you want to do it. But we always want to kind of practice here while they're poles. So that way when they become jumps, we already have established and worked out all of the kinks and everything here while it is just a pole and it's a safe environment. Okay, so that was the other thing that I just wanted to mention. Okay, Ninky, thank you so much, sir, for submitting your video. This was a really awesome opportunity to get to see you and your mare. The biggest thing for you, which I think you're already aware of, is obviously practicing actually counting those strides, since obviously you had this video muted and you said that you kind of struggled with that. But then also working on your consistency and ability to kind of adjust your horse's stride in between the poles, so that way she's not getting 3 foot or 1 foot over the pole, but she's always getting those 2 feet over the pole. So thank you very much, and let me go ahead and go to your friend's video. Okay, so I now have your friend, and unfortunately I didn't get her name, but she does the exact same thing, which is super awesome. So she starts out with some of these turn on the haunches, and I will just point out she does kind of the same mistake as you, where she's kind of going from a walk, but you can see that her horse seems to know this exercise a little bit, and he does actually start to kind of turn a little bit on the haunches. It's still kind of walking a small circle, but he started to kind of cross over and take a couple of steps there. And then I think you do another one somewhere in here. Yes. So again, you kind of do it from a walk, right? So we want you to halt, make sure your horse is nice and square and set up, and then ask for the turn on the haunches. So again, I will say that this one is a little bit better. It's still not quite a turn on the haunches, but you can see that he does start to walk like a smaller circle, and then it turns into just like a bigger circle at some point. So he does take like a couple of small steps. I'm gonna try and look at his front legs as well. You can see that his front legs do cross over here. Not so much there, but then here, right? So he gets kind of one really good step with his front leg really crossing over. So we basically want that, but in a 90-degree turn, or 180-degree turn, or 360-degree turn, okay? And again, you're not really going to be able to achieve it fully unless you do it from a halt. It does say in the book, by the way, that you should do a halt transition first. That's why I have, I think, the audio lessons, so that way you guys, when you're riding and you're all hopped up on adrenaline for the exercise, you don't forget these tiny little details, and that way you can just go and focus on your actual riding. Okay, so now let's jump into the poles. So this is kind of a good moment that I paused it. So you can see that he does get the 2 feet over the poles, but you can see he's either stepped on the pole or he's super close to stepping on that pole. So again, we need that kind of control and adjustability so that he doesn't just get the 2 feet over the pole, but that way the pole is kind of in the center of the horse's belly. Okay, center of the horse's belly. 4, 5, 6. So yeah, I wasn't really able to count from one pole to the next, or maybe that was just a little warm up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's where I wanted to point out with Ninky and her big horse. She was obviously getting different strides amounts. So let's go ahead and count this again. I believe I just counted 4. Pole. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, with her horse, she was getting 3 and then 2 here, whereas this horse, who's maybe a little bit smaller, is comfortably getting 4 and then 3, which is, again, totally fine. You guys have to ride the horse that you have. Okay, you have to ride the horse that you have. So I love this. I am not bothered at all if this horse is getting different number of strides in the same exercise. That is totally fine. a nice, steady, easy rhythm, which is lovely. This horse has no problems with making his lead changes over the exercise. So that's all looking really nice. Very nice. So same thing, yeah, from Ninki's video and this video, I wanted to make sure that in this direction, she got 4 and then 3. So from this direction, she got 3 and 4. Okay, so she has some consistency here. Her horse didn't get different number of strides from the right to the left. So that's something really lovely. And again, that the horse is kind of putting the 2 feet over the pole. The one thing that I want to mention though, because like here it looked like the distance, let me just watch this again. I can actually see this horse thinking about where to put its feet to go over the pole. So when you guys are watching this, you can see that the horse actually, I think, kind of adjusts itself and makes its stride a little bit less here to get the 2 feet over the pole. And that's coming from the horse because I'm not seeing her adjusting the horse. I really feel like in that moment, the horse kind of adjusted itself. So again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you have one of those kind of schoolmaster horses that can help you, that's great. But we want to kind of rise up to their level so that we can also help our horses too. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point that out, that sometimes it's okay to kind of let the horse decide and choose the stride. And then other times we need to kind of be there for the horse, be their teammate and their partner, and kind of decide the strides for them. Very nice little lead change again. So here, and this is exactly what I was talking about here, the distance wasn't the best. He got a little bit close, and you can see that he actually steps, he kind of does like a little trot step in the back, right? So he kind of is aware that the distance is a bit awkward, and so he himself kind of adjusts himself and picks up his foot so as not to touch the pole. So what a little cutie pie horse this is. But again, I just wanted to mention that that is something where we need to practice our control and our adjustability. So right here, I should see you kind of sitting back in the saddle, really sitting in that saddle, using your abs in your seat and asking this horse to slow down a little bit to make that stride. So that way it's not the horse's decision so much as it is your decision. Okay, thank you so much for sending this video and great job. Okay, so next we have Cindy from South Africa. And Cindy, when she was setting up this exercise, she did say that her arena was a bit too small to set up the full exercise. So she did 4 strides on one side and 5 or 6 strides at the top, which she had to do as ground poles and not as jumps. So that's totally fine. You guys can definitely tweak and adjust these exercises based on your arena. So yeah, definitely don't have a problem with that. Okay, so with Cindy, obviously I've already seen her for week 1 and week 2, and now we are here in week 3, and the biggest thing that we've been noticing about Cindy and her horse is basically the contact and the horse's, let's say kind of resistance, like head tossing. So basically in the warm-up itself, that's what I'm going to take a look at, right? I want to see, like, is she relaxed? Are you having that connection and contact? Or is there any improvement since we've started this challenge? And I'm definitely seeing some improvement. So I'm glad, Cindy. I think you've been working really hard on what we've been talking about. I can see you opening your hand here to help her with this exercise and help maintain that contact without her fussing. She kind of starts a little bit there, but then you get quiet again and kind of bring her back to you. So I'm really happy with what I'm seeing as far as the warm-up goes and as far as you keeping that connection and keeping her happy, okay? We need more of this because the more we can do this in our warm-up, the more it's going to carry over into the jumping so that she's not doing any head tossing in the jumping. So there you can see again, she kind of started, but then you kept nice and quiet and just kind of worked her through it, and then she came back to you. So we want to carry this over into the actual jumping exercise, which is great. So yeah, as far as the turn on the haunches itself, and I think this seems to be a theme with a lot of the jumpers, I feel like everyone is kind of doing it from a walk. Let me just see. Yeah, so you kind of walk into it. I need you guys to halt, okay? I need you guys to halt and then do your turn on the haunches, okay? Give yourselves the time, right? You have the time, you have the space, you can halt, you can even halt for, 10 seconds, set your horse up for success. Ask for the bend. Get your, outside leg where you need it to be. Get your hands soft, like get them bent around your leg. Do what it is you need to do and take your time. Yeah, don't feel like you need to rush through it. Okay, so for the turn on the haunches itself, she is kind of just walking in small little circles. She's not doing a full... So there you can see she's actually crossing over with the haunches. So for the turn on the haunches, she should have like really small circles with the haunches, and her forehand should be spinning around. Like there a little bit. That was a good one, except there she started to cross. So that's more outside rein and getting her, again, more halted. So this is kind of like walking little small circles. I still like, though, that, as I said, you're keeping her throughout this exercise kind of soft and in your hands and not really fussing. Okay, so good job with that. And then let's go ahead and move on to the actual jumping exercise. Okay, so let me just see again. So here you already start. Unfortunately, you cut out the very first pole, so I don't know what the distance was there. And then here, nice and quiet, and 1, 2, 3. Oh, and again, you cut out the distance. So I need to be able to see the whole exercise. I don't know if that was just you warming up, so let me go ahead and continue to watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jump. 1, 2, 3, and again, it cut it out. So yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I don't know if this is partially, obviously the Pivo decided to film some other person. So it's a little bit difficult for me to critique fully. Obviously, this video doesn't have any sound, like you're not counting out loud. You did tell me what you were, what you set up. But again, unless I can see the full exercise from both sides, it's hard for me to know, because I mean, you're in South Africa. I can't guess, right? I'm in Spain. You're over there. I can't guess how many strides you got from one pole to the next. So I kind of need you guys, and that's what the journaling is for in your workbook. I need you guys to kind of keep track as well of, were you able to get the same amount of strides, the strides you intended? Was it consistent? Was it, to the right you were getting more, to the left you were getting less? So I need you to kind of, I mean, obviously it would be nice to have it as a video, but I need you guys to kind of keep track of that yourselves as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was a bit short-strided. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there, obviously, she didn't change leads. But the other thing I want to point out is, look how your hands are basically in your chest. That tells me that your reins are too long. So throughout this kind of jumping exercise, I did feel like your reins were a bit too long because you're jumping most of them this way. You're doing this to try and keep that contact. Just shorten the reins. Yeah, I personally, I ride with a little bit of a longer rein, so I don't hike up my reins super short. I don't want you to shorten your reins so much that you restrict her head and then she starts tossing her head, because obviously she doesn't like that. But what I want you to do is not have them so long that your hands are now getting stuck here in your chest and you actually have nowhere to go but forward. Okay, so you're kind of hanging on her here in the jump, and you're kind of restricting her movement a little bit in the jump itself. Okay, so that's just something that I wanted to address and point out. We need to release with our hands, but also if you were to shorten your reins just a little bit, you wouldn't feel the need to keep your hands way back here in order to keep that contact. 1, 2, 3, 4, and again, a little bit short to this one. One, 2, 3, 4. So I think last time you got 5 strides, right? Last time I think you got 5, now you got 4. So again, if you were counting out loud, then I would be able to tell if that's what you intended. Okay, I just really want that in this challenge, you're being very intentional, right? Were you aiming for 4? Did you want 5, but you accidentally got 4? These are all things that are really helpful to know, especially because in a course environment, like, you have to have a plan and you have to be able to achieve your plan, right? 1, 2, oh, and then that one got cut off as well. So yeah, unfortunately, it's cutting off those ones, so I don't really know. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, quite short. That was very short, you can see. 4. Yeah, okay. So what I'm noticing, because it seems to be very consistent to this side, she's jumping this combination really nice. Let me get back to, she's jumping the combination. And then what's happening is you're not really getting her back in time to make this distance, okay? Because she's scrambling here. You can see it's small enough that you're able to hop over it, and you did this 3 or 4 times now, especially on this side after the combination. To the right, when you're leading up to the combination, she seems a little bit more adjustable and control. But when you're coming back from a combination, that's where you seem to run into trouble. So if this was a big jump at height, you're smashing through that jump, okay? Or she's going to stop or run out, or you fall off, or what have you, okay? So this jump is small enough, she's kind of scrambling over. But what we need is that when she's landing from these big combinations, that you can get her back a lot quicker. Or I need you to say, hey, horse, 4 is a bit tight. Let's boogie and get 3. Okay, so again, I need that kind of intention of, were you aiming for 4 or did you want 3? Right? The 3 might be a bit big, but right now the 4, she's kind of scrambling. So that's where, again, it's good to kind of see what is comfortable for her when you do the exercise as pole. And if when you wrote it as poles, 4 was comfortable, it does change when you make it jumps, right? It does change when you go and you make it a jump. Maybe it was comfortable at 4 as poles, but maybe with the jumps, the 4, you have to really hold her, okay? But it's taking you a little bit too long to hold her, and you're kind of scrambling here. I see you kind of braking, but it's not enough time, right? You don't get her back in enough time to be able to make the distance without her scrambling. Again, a little bit bitter, but still a little bit short. She had to really use her power there. And again, it's just like a small jump, right? So I need you, like here, this is what I need after the combination. I need you to have that control. So there's something about the combination, because this is looking nice up to the combination. There. Unfortunately, it cut out that one. Unfortunately, I don't have the second half of this, but to the right, it looks like here you land and you have a little bit more control than you did over here. Okay, so that's just something that I wanted to point out because it seemed specific to your control and adjustability after the combination, or maybe after she jumps a little bit bigger, or when the distance isn't 100% perfect, she tends to go short. Okay, so it's one of those things. So basically, we need to work on your adjustability, and the good news is in the warm-up, you know, this what you were doing here, where you were kind of getting her with you, she wasn't fussing, she was actually really listening and responding to you. We need more of this, but with the jumps, right? That's kind of the place that we need to aim towards, is getting you and her more of a team, her being less fussy, and you getting the basically instant control the second you need it here, right? After a big combination. Okay, that's what we need to do. So thank you so much for sending your video, and great job. Okay, and our last rider is Michelle. Now, Michelle, I've also been critiquing for the past couple of weeks, and I just want to mention, so she kind of mentioned a couple things that she had some trouble with the pivot. So unfortunately, in this video, she only kind of, like this first pole, from this pole to this pole, is completely cut off. So I don't really know, you know, how that pole went. So I have kind of a half from this direction and a half from the other direction. So again, I just want to reiterate for you guys that, you know, for me, I really need to be able to see both sides, so that way I can kind of compare. Did you do the same thing on the right as you did the left? Were you struggling more on one side or the other? You know, were you able to count the correct distances and all that good stuff? And then the other thing is, obviously, she did mention that she was really struggling with this exercise. So Michelle says she had kind of a hard time trying to focus on too many things at the same time. That's okay. Okay, this exercise is a challenging exercise. I picked this one for a reason. It's kind of a curveball. I didn't intend for this exercise to be easy, but it's revealing. Okay, this exercise is very revealing. And I think it's great because it points out a lot of things for you guys which you need to work on and improve, especially because, you know, it's just poles on the ground, right? You're just doing poles, and if you're already kind of struggling with poles, then that means that for this particular exercise, you're not quite ready for the jumps, right? So we want to get it working smoothly first as poles, and then we can do it as, you know, cross rails or cavalettes or jumps. Okay, so yeah, this exercise is meant to challenge you and your horse. And then the other thing she said was she had trouble kind of keeping the forward, also sitting. She kept wanting to go into a 3-point seat, which is what she was doing in the last video that we had seen. And then, of course, counting all at the same time. So again, welcome to show jumping. You know, it's the only sport in the Olympics where you're in and out of a show jumping arena in what? Like 80 seconds? 70 seconds? Like, that's how much time you get to win a medal. Okay, you get 70 seconds to jump clear, and if you jump clear, you get to go to the jump off, which is like, what, 30 seconds? Okay, so your entire show jumping career is determined in like 2 minutes. Okay, so how much time you're spending in the warm-up or whatever doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're in the arena for all of 70 seconds. Okay, so that's called show jumping, unfortunately, but again, that's what we love about this sport so much, right? It's technical, you have to do 100 things correctly all at the same time. So, yes, welcome to show jumping. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. So again, Michelle, she's not counting out loud. She also didn't tell me, like, how many strides did she set up, so I don't know from this pole to this pole what your intention was. Okay, so you just did pole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pole. Okay, so were you supposed to get 5? Were you supposed to get 4? Were you supposed to get 6? I don't know. Okay, your guess is as good as mine. So I need you guys to kind of pay attention to this when you're riding the exercise. Keep track. Keep track of what it is that you were supposed to get, what it is that you were getting. Be very intentional. Document it in your journal. Share it with me. It just makes all the difference, so that way I can tell for sure this is like you're riding what you intended. So I really liked, and I'll just kind of point this out. So again, I don't have the first pole, unfortunately. I do really like that here over the pole. He does a nice little flying lead change for you. He looks very calm, very lovely here. So super happy about that. But then here, when you come over the pole to the other direction, you don't get that lead change, right? You don't get that lead change. You should get that lead change to the left so that you can bend left. And then here you decide to go right. So you kind of go left and then right. You do get a lead change over here, you don't get a lead change in the corner, so you kind of trot and then pick up the lead change over here. Okay, so if you're going to go right and then left and then right and then left again, that means you're going to have to make multiple flying lead changes. Okay, if this was a jump and a big combination, you want to set your horse up for success. Okay, you don't want to come at a weird angle. You don't want to come counter cantering unless your horse is like super fit and totally fine with that. You don't want to be cross cantering. Like, you want to set your horse up for success as much as you possibly can so that they can do their job, which is the jump. Okay, so here you weren't able to get those flying lead changes, and you did in the very first one. Okay, so this one was really lovely. Maybe I already missed it. So again, this one was very lovely. We just need to do that over all of the other poles from the other side. Okay, so let's just go back again. So this one you did pole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to see if you got 5 from the other side. Okay, again, I don't know if 5 is what you set up, but that's what we're going to count and see. Pole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pole, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one you can see, before it zooms out, he does deer hop over the pole, so he doesn't get 2 feet over the pole. He does kind of hop over it, as you can see there. So again, we always want the 2 feet over the pole. So what that means for me is that the distance between this pole and that pole, either you needed to slow him down or either you needed to speed him up so that he would get the 2 feet over the pole. So that means that the distance wasn't very good, right? And again, it could be partially because you were cantering on the wrong lead. Okay, so that's just something to think about. Or, well, actually, were you this direction? No, sorry, this direction you were on the correct lead, but then here you should have swapped to the other lead. So I don't know if you were already anticipating the lead for the other side and if you got distracted or whatever it was, but you need to kind of work on your adjustability a little bit so that you can get him the 2 feet over the pole. But I will say, I mean, obviously this is not an entire thing that I watched. It's only a 50-second video. Last week, you know, he was stepping on the poles. He was getting 1 foot, 2 foot. So I definitely don't expect it to be perfect in 1 week by any means. So don't worry about that. Just wanted to point it out that that's something to still kind of focus on, because obviously if it was a jump, you know, we don't want them deer hopping over it. We don't want them to get too close or jump too long. We want them to find their sweet spot, okay? And then here, you do kind of a little bonus thing where you ride over the 2 poles as a circle. And from this angle, it looks like you did get the 2 feet over the 2 poles, so that looks really lovely. And then you finish off by kind of popping him over the little jump here. And again, it would be really nice if you had been counting like 3, 2, 1, jump, or whatever it is, just so for my benefit, but also for your benefit, so we could hear, you know, if you're actually seeing that distance. 3, 2, 1, right? And it looks like he chips in an extra stride there. Okay, so again, it would be really helpful to hear what your intention was, right? Because he does kind of chip in a stride. But it's small enough that it's not too big of a deal. Okay, so the last thing that I just wanted to mention, it sounds like you're already very self-aware. Like, it sounds like this challenge has made you very self-aware of some things which you need to work on and practice. You know, as you said, you kind of were focusing on 100 different things all at the same time. So honestly, I already see a little bit of improvement happening. This looks really nice, very calm. Yes, this is a challenging exercise in general, but I'm glad that you're very self-aware, and you don't have to necessarily have all the tools yet. Okay, you don't have to have all of the tools yet and try and fix everything all at once. What I want you to do is focus on one thing. Okay, so you said that you were trying to focus on, you know, keeping him forward, sitting in the saddle, you know, doing this, doing that, counting. Pick one thing, right? Pick one thing. Maybe it's the counting, and that day you just focus on counting. Okay, maybe the next day you do this exercise, you just focus on, you know, sitting in the saddle. Maybe the day after that, you focus on getting him a little bit more forward. Okay, so don't feel like you have to fix 500 things all at the same time, because that doesn't work. And usually we end up fixing nothing, or, you know, fixing something very bare minimally, and then it just goes back to our bad habit anyways, because we didn't fully fix it. We just kind of band-aided it. So I want you to not obsess over trying to be perfect. No one's perfect. I don't expect perfection. I don't expect every pole to be perfect. It happens. Okay, but what I would love to see is that you kind of give yourself a little bit of a break, and you give yourself the chance to fix one thing at a time and not 100 at a time. So thank you so much, Michelle, and I can't wait to see your week 4. Hi everyone, and woo, that was everyone's critiques for this week. Thank you so much, everyone who sent me your riding videos. I love it. Love seeing you guys in so many different countries, so many different types of horses. Like, love it, love it, love it. The biggest thing that I wanted to say to you guys, apart from thank you, was good job. Next week, okay, week 4, you're going to be doing a course, and we're going to treat it a little bit like a competition. I'm going to jump in and make the actual homework video a little bit later, but what I wanted to say was, now we're going to kind of put all the things together, right? Everything that you guys have been working on, we're going to kind of put everything together. And so, you know, it's okay if you feel like, oh my God, I'm making all these mistakes, I'm not perfect yet. Don't worry about it. You can do your course, your show day as poles, okay? You could do it as cross rails. You could do it as small jumps, like whatever, okay? Whatever level you guys are at, doesn't matter. It's for you, okay? This challenge is for you. So again, thank you guys for sending your videos. Please do me one little favor. If you haven't already, I need pictures. I need pictures of your guys' workbooks, preferably like between the ears or whatever it is. I need pictures. I need testimonials on our Amazon. Pictures, pictures, pictures. I want our Amazon to have so many pictures on it from so many different countries. Like, that is my personal goal. So we are having a basically totally rigged giveaway where if you upload pictures and a testimonial, screenshot it, send it to us, I'm going to give you a prize, okay? And it's going to be an awesome prize. You can't lose, okay? So please send me your testimonials and your pictures. I'm already getting some, and I love them. And I just wanted to say thank you guys who've already submitted. Please send me more pictures, and I can't wait to see you guys in your week 4. Bye!